Ho ho ho, crafty friends! Welcome to Craftvent Day 3, and today we are making felt bells. All right, we're going to make a cute little felt ornament today. So you should have your bell shape. You certainly don't have to use this. You can create your own bell shape. I'm just not very good at freehanding things, so I threw this little pattern in there. I'm going to start by cutting it out of my paper so that I can trace it onto my felt. Ta-da! There's my little bell shape. And now we're just going to actually cut that out of both pieces. You should have two pieces of felt that are the same size. We're going to cut it out of both pieces. You can draw it around. You can just live dangerously and cut it. You might, if you're careful, actually be able to even do two out of the piece of felt that you got if you're being very good with your space. You can use just a pencil to draw around. I'm just going to cut it because it doesn't have to be perfect. So I'm just going to hold my cardboard in place as best I can while I cut around. And then I'll smooth out any pointy or weird edges once I'm done. Okay, those out of the way, and I am done with my little bell. I am going to go ahead and round off these little bits here. Although they're cute, they're little pointies too, but they make me think a little bit more of a ghost when they're pointed. So, and then I got a little jagged on the bottom here, so just smoothing that out. I think I want that a little more round. There we go. All right. So once you're happy with your bell shape, you are going to need your very sharp embroidery needle out of your toolkit. So this one is pretty pokey. Do be careful. It should have a nice big slit at the top, which we're going to thread. And then you've got a length of white embroidery floss. We're actually going to separate this, so we're not going to use it as it is. You certainly could, but I find that it's a little easier to work with if I split it in half. So embroidery floss is a bunch of little threads wrapped together. So I'm just going to take it and untwist so that I can see my threads, and then I'm going to use my fingernail to kind of pop through. I would say use 2 or 3. I'm going to go ahead and use 3 because I do want the white stitching to pop, but 2 will be plenty secure as well if you don't want to see the white quite as bold. Using my finger to separate all the strands. It gets very, very twisty at the end. We're almost there. Ta-da. All right, set that aside because I don't need it. Probably won't use it, but I have it just in case I decide to get really thick with my stitches. Okay, so you also have a needle threader if you want to use that. I, again, am feeling like living dangerously, so I'm just going to shove it through and hope, and I got them. All right. Pulled a little bit through, not a ton. I'm going to go ahead and tie a knot in the end of this one so that it will catch on my felt. The way I like to do that is I will just pinch the tail, wrap it around my finger, pinch where I wrapped, and then just kind of smush, 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 smush around a couple of times, and then roll it off my finger, and it should form a pretty decent knot at the end there. You can actually sit there and hand tie it as well if you'd like, but... All right, and now we're going to stitch around the outside of our bell to give it a nice little border. We are going to leave a little bit open so that we can put a bit of stuffing in there. We're not going to stuff it a lot. We want it to stay relatively flat, but we want to give it a little bit of a shmoosh. So I don't like starting in corners. I'm going to start about midway, but you can start anywhere along your bell that you want. And there's a bunch of different stitch options for you to do. So the simplest stitch is going to be your running stitch. In that, we're just going to poke up through our felt. Pretty thick to poke, so just really shove it up in there. And we're just going to go up and down and up and down. So we're going to end up with, it's going to be a broken stitch line, a dashed line. So you'll have a stitch and then a space and then a stitch and then a space. So I'll show you what that one looks like here along the bottom. So I just went up one, down the next. Then I'm going to skip a little space and come back up. And then try and make my stitches about evenly length. I'm not very good about being even. So this is your running stitch, and it just goes up and down, and then the other side's going to look just the same, up and down, up and down. Another option you can do is a back stitch, and that's going to create a solid line for you. So for our back stitch, we're going to go up, and then instead of moving forward, I'm actually going to come back to my previous stitch and go down in the same spot that it was. Then I'm going to skip a little space and come back up. I'm going to push on my mat and then back down the previous hole of my previous stitch. So this is going to give you a very solid border. And that's definitely really nice looking to give that edge. You could also do a blanket stitch if you wanted to make it super fancy, and I'll show you what that is as soon as I turn my corner here. All right, so for our blanket stitch, we're going to come up, and essentially we're going to end up tying knots as we go. So